Just don't know about QAnon.
You do know.
I don't know. No, I don't know.
You know, if you go out and you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID.
He wants to host next year's G7 summit at his own Doral Golf Club.
Gotta take care of the floors, you know, the floors of the forests. Very important. Frederick Douglass is an example of somebody who's done an amazing job and is being recognized more and more, I notice.
Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter, is sitting in for the Secretary of State.
That incredible night with the maps, and the Republicans are red, and that map was so red from Sachin Tendulkar to Virat Kohli.
Trump tweeting, "The New York Times, they are a true enemy of the people."
I think we have enough of an interview here, Hope. Okay, that's enough. Let's go.
This Russian bounty story, we have multiple sources saying that Trump knew all along.
I was there for a tiny, little short period of time, and it was much more for an inspection. There was no problem during the day.
And said, quote, "Crazy Joe Biden, he doesn't know me, but he would go down fast and hard, crying all the way."
They'll go out and they'll vote, and they're going to have to go and check their vote by going to the poll and voting that way. People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to once.
The State Department is emphasizing to world leaders that they should stay at Donald Trump's hotels.
And they say the noise causes cancer. You tell me that one, okay?
Trump ordered Robert Mueller, the special prosecutor, be fired. The factory policy is wear a mask at all times, and Trump puts on goggles but no mask.
And we're building a wall in Colorado. We're building a beautiful wall.
Trump floated the idea of swapping Puerto Rico for Greenland. The ramp that I descended after my West Point commencement speech was very long and steep, had no handrail, and most importantly, was very slippery.
Our army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
Wherever Trump goes, he tries to make himself seem dominant over whoever he's shaking hands with. Trump's strong-looking Situation Room photo was a staged photograph likely taken hours after the event.
Lock them up. You should lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
I too have a nuclear button, but it is a much bigger and more powerful one than his. The narcissist-in-chief Donald Trump wanted his signature printed on all of the checks. He's not reading a presidential daily briefing that has been dumbed down to one page, mostly pictures, graphs, and maps.
Get that son of a bitch off the field right now. Out. He's fired. He's fired.
So in Florida, I encourage all to request a ballot and vote by mail. The wind direction shifted and it sort of split his hair, sort of back to front. Trump was laughed at by the entire room of world leaders at the United Nations.
One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
And then they did dumps. They call them dumps, big, massive dumps.
LeVar Ball is unaccepting of what I did for his son. I should have left them in jail.
These aren't people. These are animals. But the same vaccine could not work. You take a solid flu vaccine, you don't think that would have an impact or much of an impact on corona?
No. Cummings District is a disgusting rat and rodent infested mess. Compared to other presidents, Trump has golfed more than any modern president.
CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person.
Trump showed up and started throwing paper towels to people like he was shooting free throws in basketball. Donald Trump's decision to do the Corona Caravan drive around Walter Reed.
Well, it's not the hardest task.
No, but
the picture and it says what's that, and it's an elephant.
No. You see, that's all misrepresentation.
Well, that's what
The White House had put together a statement praising McCain and his life and his heroism. Trump said, no statement, I'll post a tweet instead. This is the guy who stared directly at a solar eclipse.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Trump shared a video of a supporter of his yelling white power.
Moment of the sexual experience will ask the young lady, who's your daddy?
This should be remixed. If Officer Akimov is watching, this could be the next remix masterpiece, because just wait till you see what happens here. Oh, Officer Akimov is here. That's beautiful.
Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?
I'm joined today by Pastor James David Manning.
Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? No, I'm a Christian. Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?
I'm joined today by Pastor James David Manning.
Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? A long-legged Mac Daddy is the most successful pimp on planet Earth. To reverence the Word of God, to trust it, to preach it, to teach it, loads and loads of money and tons of lives. Loads and loads of money and tons of lives.
What happened in prison that brought you to Jesus? What happened in prison that brought you to Jesus?
George Bush Sr. and George Bush Jr. have been penetrated by at least 100 men in their anus, 100,000, 200,000 strong. I didn't do it. That's not my problem. So I got down on my knees. I didn't do it, but I was tempted.
Sounds like quite an evening.
Loads and loads of money and tons of lives. Loads and loads of money and tons of lives. Loads and loads of money and tons of lives. Loads and loads of money and tons of lives. Let me say something to you about marketing. Starbucks has done the exact same thing that Coca-Cola has done, except they've done it with semen.
That certainly seems to be a story that has been missed.
Gays tend to love each other's semen.
How do you know that it flavors the coffee?
Gays tend to love each other's semen. Gays tend to love each other's semen.
How do you know that it flavors the coffee?
Gays tend to love each other's semen. Loads and loads of money and tons of lives. Loads and loads of money and tons of lives. Loads and loads of money and tons of lives.
All right, welcome everybody. That's the latest hit record from Office Akimov, not Officer Akimov, Office Akimov, and always welcome more submissions from the office. Yeah. Okay, very good. We're here for something that, my prediction is this is not a stream that's going to do particularly well. Why? Because it's actually substantive. Yeah, it's depressing. Joe Biden is going to be holding a joint press conference with the German Chancellor Dr. Angela Merkel. Not a medical doctor, by the way. Many people will make that very, very clear. And they will be normalizing diplomatic relations and will probably relate to each other in a sort of normal way. And that's important. That's a change from what we had previously. And that is coming up in about 20 minutes. So we're standing by for that. And I have a lot of things to get to between now and then. And in fact, Immanuel Kant, jumping in with the first super chat today, says, long live the transatlantic relationship, love from Germany, with a €5 super chat. €5 must be worth what, like $1,000 at this point? Who even knows where that exchange rate is? I do want to say thank you to Sienna Bork. Sienna Bork. Sienna is new member number 1 today at joinpacman.com. And I also want to say thanks to Micro Kimmy as well as Hack Fooey for the early Twitch Prime subs, putting us at 3. It would be delightful to be forced to open the phone lines today. And I will do that if we get to 100 website members and Twitch subscribers. But there is so much to get to between now and then. Where to even start? I Actually, I don't even know where to start. Hold on. I had my notes here. Oh, okay. I was sent a few new elements that I want to play for you guys. First of all, I have increased now my Joe Biden audio elements to 7, and we now have the following.
And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Give me a break.
With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
This idea is a bunch of malarkey.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen.
Okay, so we've got 7 Biden elements now. I am now up to 6 Bernard Sanders elements.
I wrote the damn bill. I do know it. I wrote the damn bill. I wrote the damn bill. Your damn emails. You're wrong. Yeah, good. Okay.
All right, so those are the Bernie elements. I have one new song. This is a Dumps remix of Take on Me. I think it stops too early. That's my critique of it.
And then they did dumps. They call them dumps, big, massive dumps in Michigan and Pennsylvania.
Yeah, my critique is it ends too soon. I would like to go into the next verse. I think that would make it a little bit better. And then lastly, so I have so many Trump clips at this point that I've had to turn them into subfolders, which makes it a little hard to manage. But I have a couple of new classics now very much available.
Cephahide.
Exactly. We've got...
Looking at that very strongly.
We've got that.
Then he went, Donald Trump, yeah, Donald Trump.
There's the infamous Prump.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all.
Exactly.
One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Throw him the hell out of here. Fresh vegetables.
That's my fresh vegetables.
Fresh vegetables.
Okay, so we've got that. And then I also have I have a COVID subsection as well.
And then I see the disinfectant. Is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or...
Oh no, my plasma ones are still not working.
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, very powerful light, apply light and heat to, supposing you put the light inside the body. Plasma?
Yeah, most of my plasma ones are invalid. I don't know why. Okay, but that so you know, we're continuing to build. I think that's all I've got. Yep, that's all I've got for now. All right, so that we're up to date on. Update on the Pacman Live YouTube channel. We are now getting very, very close to our first 10,000 subscribers on Pacman Live. This started very, very recently. I think we're only like a few weeks in, 5 weeks in, 4 weeks in, something like that. YouTube.com/Pacman Live. And we're still pushing for our first 10,000 subscribers here. These are highlights from the streams. Our regular YouTube channel is so full, or full, as some say, that the clips from the streams go on this other channel, and there's a lot of good stuff on it, and we're starting to get some clips that will get, 10, 20, even 30,000 views, and that's really exciting. That's youtube.com/Pacman Live. 10 people just dropped in out of nowhere, so that's the update on Pacman Live. Let me see what else I had from this standpoint. I think that's my latest update on that as we stand by for Joe Biden. Let's read a few super chats. Jonathan Brown says, CNN had George Bush on expressing his concern for the Afghan people with Biden pulling troops out. Can you imagine anything more hypocritical? Yeah, I've talked about this a lot. At a certain point, I get that we broke it. There's no doubt. There's no doubt we broke it by going in. And that gives us a responsibility to some degree to fix it. But it's almost like it's not going to get fixed for as long as we're there. So at some point, I do think that it becomes a moral imperative to simply say, we did break it, but at some point we're not ever going to fix it. So we've got to get out. That's my perspective at this point. Big Boo Boo says, David, did you see the Copa America? Argentina won. I had no idea, sir. I didn't know that happened. Of course. I watched every game. Huge, huge win for Argentina. Incredible. Bay Photo says, I think Trump's comments on Milley show he's attempt a coup all over again without question. Yeah, we covered the Milley Trump stuff on today's podcast. Klaus, a lot of Germans coming out of the woodwork, materializing spontaneously because of today's event. Klaus says, greetings from Germany. A new parliament and thus chancellor is up for election in September. Merkel isn't running, a very mixed bag outlook. Yeah, we'll talk about that as we close in on September. So we're going to have a real contrast in diplomacy today. We learned yesterday, due to excerpts from the new book, I Alone Can Fix It. The book I Alone Can Fix It revealed that Donald Trump reportedly called Merkel a bitch in the Oval Office, as well as a kraut. That's Trump diplomacy with Germany. Today, we're going to see Joe Biden and Angela Merkel hold a joint press conference. My sense is the dynamics will be very, very different. But that's a great to hear from our German friends. I do want to say thank you to Julian Ciancholo, who is the latest website member using the coupon code SADTRUMP, which makes you new member number 4 today. And I very much appreciate that. Also, thank you to PR Smoker, Sumi Long, and ASF Klops for the Twitch Prime subscriptions, number 5, 6, and 7. Make sure you're using those Bezos bucks. I do plan to cover, actually, I want to cover the Bezos space launch on the 20th. Does anybody know what time it's happening? Because I'm going to need to maybe rearrange my day on the 20th, but I would love to cover that live. Anybody have any idea? When is the Bezos launch? I mean, listen, if you want Bezos to keep your Bezos bucks, then by all means, don't sign up for Twitch Prime. But let's see. Jeff Bezos, July 20, launch time. 9 a.m. Okay, all right. Well, I'm willing to do that. It'll be an early stream. I'll probably start at 8:45. I'll have to change around. Man, maybe I should even look at filming the podcast the day before or something like that. We'll see. But I do want to check that out. Maximum Punked says, can you add explosive trees to the audio clips? That's not a bad one. I don't know if it's a top Trump clip, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Okay, I did get this. This was sent to me. This is someone pretending to be a conservative, trolling a school board meeting on the topic of critical race theory. I really like this. Check this out.
So, I'm here to say, we need to end forced indoctrination in our schools. And right after we do that, right after we end the forced indoctrination, we need to mandate that everyone stands for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Direct your comments to the board, not to the audience.
That's...
Direct your comments to the board.
I just want to say, as a conservative, just because I don't know anything about critical race theory, it doesn't mean I can't talk about critical race theory.
I have no idea on the background of this, but I'm loving it.
I don't know, whatever happened to, this freedom of speech thing.
This guy right here, I don't know if this guy's liking it or not.
It's like, It's like, big tech, government. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, so then they shut him down. That's really nicely done. Really, really nicely done. That's good stuff. Okay, good. So we got that. Just going through my other items here. Jeffrey says, David, on the second channel, will you upload the live stream of you laughing at the Rudy Giuliani hair dye meltdown? Okay. If someone in the audience can go back to that stream, we now have a past live stream shelf on the main channel. If you can get us some time codes of that entire fiasco and my out of control laughing from the hair dye thing, we'll clip that and we'll put it on the new channel. I think that's a really, really nice idea, actually. But we do need a little bit of help with that. And another 10 subscribers dropping in on Pac-Man Live. We will get that put up and quick. Because that's a good segment. That would be great. Okay, excellent. Next, I've been asked to react to this video. Okay, my understanding, there's apparently a growing debate, if you can imagine, over the term gusano, which in a literal sense means worm. But my view is it's often sort of used to refer to white Latin Americans as a pejorative. This is apparently Hassan Piker saying it's fine to use the term, and then Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II saying it's not okay to use it. So I've not yet seen this. It's a 1-minute clip. Let's take a listen and see where I come down on it.
People want to make it out to be a fucking like slur or something. It just means worm, okay?
This take here, and I understand that we're doing frat boy politics now, so I don't expect them to say anything, intelligent, right? But it just means worm. Like negro is just black in Spanish, or like wetback is just, it means that you have a sweaty back. Like, how stupid do you have to be to say something like this? Like, how many racial slurs, how many slur words are literally just like words for something else? Like, how stupid do you have to be to say something like this? Like how many racial slurs just mean something, or like the F slur just means like a bundle of sticks? Like,
yeah, I agree 110% with Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II. He's completely right. Now, I don't use any of these words. I find them all completely unproductive from the standpoint of actually discussing policy. But there's no, by the way, it's funny. Sometimes when I'm like, hey, the Cuban embargo is really bad, that the U.S. should stop the Cuban embargo, and the U.S. should not in any way intervene in Cuba. And as a progressive, I can't possibly defend an authoritarian Castro regime that took power in 1959, lasted 49 years, at which point Fidel turned over power to his brother. I'm a progressive, so that's not something I'm going to be praising. And then, oh, David, you're a gusano because your family was the rich Argentinian whites who fled and had the money to flee when shit got bad. And it's like, whoa, hold on a second, guys. Let's see if we can back up about 10 steps. My family left Argentina because we had no money. My dad was a doctor in Argentina, but when he came to the U.S., he was no longer a licensed doctor. And his first job, he made $29,000 a year, right? So no. It's all like there's nothing even remotely material there. But I do think that the term gusano is overwhelmingly racially used for white Latin Americans. Now, what's funny is the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists say I'm not white. So, we can talk about my societally assigned race. It's all BS. And so, yeah, I agree with Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II on this issue. It's not a good term. It's not a good look to use it. It is in practice, and this debate over, is it a slur? It's disproportionate. It's sort of like calling people Karens, which I don't do. It's being disproportionately applied to white people. And so therefore it's not super progressive from my perspective to use it. All right. Clip that, guys, if you want. That seems like it would be something. Yeah. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. This, I'm not an authoritarian. Okay. All right. So that is that. I'm not saying Karen is the same. I'm not saying, and none of these things are the same, but I try to stay away from any of these racialized terms. Okay. A big thank you to, oh no, I already thanked Julian. All right, good. Okay, everything's good. All right, let's get to some other, let's keep going through some voicemails. We've been working through the voicemails. I've been going through a few each stream. Let's just dive in order.
Hi there. My name's Kaylee. I live in Canada. Big fan of your show. I really enjoyed your segment with co-founder of Healthy Gamer and have two questions. Number one, do you practice mindfulness and meditation?
I do.
And if so, have you found it useful?
Yes, I have.
Number two, do you think mindfulness education on a larger scale would help in the deprogramming of those who have been misinformed of the realities of U.S. politics, climate change, and science in general?
Yeah, I think to some degree it would. Yeah. For sure.
Hey, David. Mike from New York. The fallout of the last election and the attempted coup back in January has made my brother basically lose hope in our democracy. He firmly believes that if the Republicans take back the House and the Senate, that there's no chance a Democrat will ever be president ever again, especially in 2024. He thinks that they will simply reject any result that isn't beneficial to them, and just because they think they have the authority to do so, and they're just going to completely disregard the Constitution.
Of course they are, and we need to move ahead without. I mean, yeah, that's not really a consideration, particularly at this point in time for me. Cameron McCabe says, did I get the email about the Crowder joke? I did, but it didn't link to a specific time code. For whatever reason, when I opened it, it goes direct to Spotify, and there's no time code link, so I didn't. It was not. I wasn't able to find it from that standpoint, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's keep going.
So I looked it up, and they said that Arabs had like a few inventions, but it's like, how do I know that they even invented that? How do I know that like they didn't just use slaves and stuff and then take the credit for it? The only thing—
Did the Arabs not really invent stuff, and instead it was their slaves, and then they took credit? That's a historical question.
I can really tell that they invented was like the idea of the toothbrush, because they believe that they're the only people stupid enough to stick a freaking stick in their mouths and swish it around.
Yeah, okay.
Also, what I find really suspicious is that the only person really vouching for Jerusalem and Israel and their stance on political and war scenarios is Benjamin, and I noticed that his wife is from an Arab country. But it's just kind of weird, like if you look at the Israelis, like I know they're mixed with a lot of Middle Eastern Asian people. And it is like, how do I know that they didn't switch places? Like, how do I know?
Yeah, it's getting pretty weird.
Hey, David, big fan of your show, and was just wondering what your thoughts on masks being worn with the new variant being out. I think it was in Cali. They said that people should still wear masks because of the variant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly doing everything outside right now, and I assume that by the fall there's going to be a lot more masking. Is my expectation. That's my sense of it. Looks like here's another one about masks.
Hi, David. I'm calling about something you said on your show regarding the flu season. And, you know, people wearing their masks, and it'll help with the flu because look what happened this past year. The mask wearing helped keep us oh crap.
Okay.
This is a comment in response to your video about the DoD documentation saying that socialists are terrorists. In any type of economic ideology, there's going to be a good and a bad. Communism, good and bad. Socialism, good and bad. Capitalism, good and bad. And actually, a lot of different countries use.
Okay. So that just cut out. It's weird. Let's keep going.
Hey, David. Look, man, this is why I love you. I get to listening, and my brain just starts turning over with ideas. So I was listening to you talk about why we do a minimum wage, and that it comes down to this balance between the wage versus the government assistance, which is ultimately paid for by the taxpayer. So the thing is, taxpayers shouldn't be subsidizing big businesses. I mean, they make bajillions of dollars a year. They have these millions of dollars of bonuses for the CEOs and such, and some of them pay little to zero taxes, every year. So
as you can tell, it's like it's a very nice voicemail, but it's not anything I can sort of use like on the broadcast show. I do want to say thank you to Grungy Dan for dropping in a Twitch sub via Twitch Prime and his new member number 8 today. Today is a perfect day, actually, to re-up those Twitch Prime subs in advance of Jeff Bezos being launched up into the air, of course, as all of you know.
Sir, your wife is up in the air.
Jeff Bezos going up very soon, but he can't take the Bezos bucks with him, so a great day to drop in one of those Twitch subs. Let's continue with the voicemails.
Hey, David. My name is also David. I'm from San Diego. I was just calling because I was wanting to ask a question. I was recently listening to this band called Stick to Your Guns, and on one of their tracks,
I'm on there.
Beyond the Sun, at the end of the track, I recognized your voice as well as Chank's voice. And I was wondering if you had any knowledge of that, if you could share any.
Yeah, they asked about it, and they're friends of the show, Stick to Your Guns, a progressive-minded band. And yes, that's very cool, and we're very, very much aware of that.
Hey, Dave. It's Denver. I really enjoyed you coming on to stream today when you were on vacation, and all the jokes about Matthew Calamari were really funny, squid pro quo, etc. But can you imagine if there were a guy named Dave Rubin? That might be just a little bit too absurd. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Bye.
Okay. Very interesting. We're going one after the other. That's why this keeps happening.
Hey, David. Hey, I hear often that sometimes you get a caller when you take phone calls because I guess you don't have anything else to do or any topic to talk about.
This is Troy York now.
And they say that we should ignore Trump and that the media should not cover Trump and because they don't like him politically and his pro-American views. And many of these callers, by the way, I have noticed, perhaps you haven't, are German or they say they're Australian. They're not even American.
This is so dumb. I'm so bored with Troy York. It's so boring.
So I was looking at the biggest population in America as far as like immigration goes is Indians. Which
all right. This I'm also sick of.
Going on talking about like the Indian people.
Yep, and we're not going to do that. I do want to say thank you to Blueberry Babe for signing up via Twitch Prime at twitch.tv/David Pakman. Also, thanks to Pheno963, who just signed up and is new member number 10 and says, for goodness sake, this girl is so self-absorbed. Happy day, David. Peace. Also want to thank Matthew Calamari for gifting one Twitch Prime subscription via Twitch. I very much appreciate that. We do have the coupon code SADTRUMP. It's in play. Let's in fact test some of these coupon codes because I believe that they are all working. How much of a discount is Sad Trump? Let's see. Sad Trump. Oh, hold on. Something's maybe it's not working. Oh my God. Let's refresh here if we can. Coupon code Sad Trump. There it is, $180 a month. It was like too big of a discount. Yeah, it's working fine, guys. Sad Trump is working, and there's absolutely no problem whatsoever with that. Okay, let's we can ease up on the it's not working stuff. All right, let's go to a couple more of these. All right. I mean the same. I think this is the same woman who called in.
There's like miscommunication, kind of. I feel like among the, I guess, like moral superiority of what happened during the Third Reich, because I feel like there's maybe some people.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna do. There was confusion about Nazis. No, we're not going down that road. I want to say thank you to Joseph Rader for both resubscribing with Prime and gifting a subscription, putting us at 13. Also, thanks to Jen here for gifting a subscription, number 14. Let's look at maybe let's just do. Oh, there's so many from this same caller. I guess the rule is I'm not skipping.
It's really hard for me to like trust people who hail Hitler and stuff like that.
Me too. Yep, me too. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, hey, David,
It's Eric from Mass. I'm just calling to let you know that the WHO has said that no longer should kids take the vax. It's very dangerous. You can look it up, man.
Yeah, that's not what they said. And we haven't even really started vaccinating kids. 12 plus only with one vaccine. Very strange caller. Very dangerous caller, in fact. Let's keep going.
Hey, David. This is Steve from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I just have a quick question for you. I think there's a real divide between Democrats and Republicans on what foreign nations we think the real threat is. Now, you can make some good arguments for China, the fact their economy is booming so much. You can make the argument for Russia because there's
Depends what you mean by threat also.
cyber attacks and their investment into what I'd like to say is a new Cold War of misinformation and, hacking voting systems, this and that. So in your opinion, David, who is the biggest threat to the United States? And
I think that's very black-white thinking. Are we talking a geopolitical threat, economic threat, terroristic threat, domestic threat, culture? I mean, we've got to be more specific about it, I think. All right, let's listen to one more.
Hi, Patrick and David.
And it happens to be Troy York.
The program. I just want to let you know, I've seen programs of Jimmy Dore, who basically he has mocked Sam Cedar. He has done a video now on Kyle Kuglinski.
Who cares? Who cares? I don't know what's going on, guys. I have no idea about this stuff.
Of secular talk. And I think that we need to be forewarned and not to mess, not to fuck around with Jimmy Dore, because he will eventually put a video for the David Packman.
My channel is significantly larger than Jimmy's. I don't know. I mean, it seems it would benefit him to start doing that, which he might. But what I don't care. I don't know what these guys are doing. Like, what are maybe people in the chat can tell me. Are they all constantly criticizing each other in order to get clicks? Is that what's going on? Like, I don't even get how is this every single week? It's Jank, Jimmy Dore, and Kyle, and that's basically what it is. Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll listen to a little bit more.
And I think that Jimmy Dore is setting it straight to you far left radical Marxists.
Marxists or Marxists. What was that word?
And he is not a guy to be played around with.
Oh.
And hopefully your goofy Argentine Venezuelan ass.
I've never been to Venezuela.
Doesn't propagandize and attack him like the aforementioned awful podcasters. Jimmy Dore bashed the Lincoln Project's Rick Wilson.
Who cares?
He has bashed the psychopath Keith Olbermann. And he has blasted the stupid Sam Cedar.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Good for him, I guess. Like, is it a badge of honor to be bashing people as opposed to doing policy? I don't know. You guys tell me. I don't really get it. Let's see here. What else are we doing? Maybe just one more.
Hey, David. I was seeing that Hurricane Elsa is about to swing through Florida, and it sparked a thought. Do you think when Trump drew Alabama in the map of that hurricane that was coming from, do you remember how he looked at the marker?
All right. And we're done. Okay, that's going to be, we're done with voicemails for the time being, okay? South Texas Rover says, been a yearly member and never heard a bonus show. Oh, that's really easy. When you, hold on a second. Let's see if I can, let me get myself logged in. Just so we can, I'll show you where that is. Okay, so when logged in, you just go to member content and you pick the year. Like right now it's 2021, so you would go to member content 2021 and you just click on whatever bonus show you want. You just click, that's it. It's super, super simple. Bonus shows and boner shows are all on the same page, yeah. So you don't have to go to two different places for that. David, have you seen today's Guardian newspaper? Kremlin files exposed. Yep, that's on our podcast today. Tokyo Olympics will be held without spectators. Number of severe cases 400 and death 20 per day, but only 30% finished with first vax. What do you think of the decision? Probably makes sense. I'll actually show you guys something that's going to be published a little bit later to YouTube that we did on today's show. By the way, thanks to Captain Doncho and Gatsby Cat for the Twitch subs, numbers 15 and 16. Let me find this. Actually, no, you know what? This is not even on until tomorrow's show. So let me play. This is so bizarre. A guest went on Fox News and referred to the Japanese genocide. And, well, why did it turn green? That's weird. And nobody corrects her. Listen to this. She's got Japan and China confused.
And around these Olympics, I like to call them the genocide Olympics. Anyway, I'm still on the team that I'm not even sure that we should be competing because there is an ongoing genocide in Xinjiang.
Look at Kaylee nodding.
So if we are going to go to a country, if we are going to compete and have American athletes there in a country that's committing a genocide, even more important, Harris, to have the freedom of the American flag.
Wow. Yeah, except Japan is not committing a genocide against the Uyghurs. It's just not happening. Japan has criticized the genocide against the Uyghurs. What a bizarre thing. Now, I saw one comment, and I'll address this tomorrow. I saw one comment that she meant next year's Beijing Olympics. This was a segment about the Olympics happening in 10 days. Like if I refer to the Olympics and the Olympics start in 10 days, it's sort of like if the World Cup were starting tomorrow and 4 years from now, it's in like Saudi Arabia. It's actually in Qatar coming up. But in any case, and I go, yeah, we shouldn't even go to the World Cup. And then who would assume I'm talking about the one 4 years from now? It's very strange, but I think a lot of people in the chat are making a good point, which is a lot of the Fox News audience has no idea what's going on, so they may not even notice. I want to say thank you to Desiree DeLong, who just signed up on my website with the coupon code SADTRUMP and is new member number 17 today. Very much appreciate that. Let's look at a couple of other super chats. HMQ says David oh no, I already did that. Okay. Started my own small business and it's going well, says Jesus. Excellent. Glad to hear it. Remember, if you want to stay in space, you have to reach orbital velocity. Many want Bezos to stay in space, but his rocket lacks the oomph. Wow. That's interesting.
Sir, your wife is up in the air.
Yeah, a lot of people want Bezos to just stay up there. Steve Gadd or Vinny Colaiuta? I'm a Steve Gadd guy myself. Big fan of Steve Gadd, but Vinny's great too. Free idea. Clip the annoying voicemail lady's voicemails into a clip and make it a try not to cringe compilation. It'll make for an amazing endurance workout. That's not a bad idea. Oh, you guys want to hear an idea? This is an idea for an upcoming stream. Okay, check this out. I have an idea for a game. I'm going to see if I can have my team set this up. The game is, I'm going to play the game, and we could all play it together on an upcoming stream. The game is going to be called Bobby Fischer or Noam Chomsky. Okay? Now, why? Bobby Fischer, near the end of his life, this was his look. Okay? Noam Chomsky now also has sort of a similar look at this point in time. There's just sort of like a similar look, okay? The game is going to be as follows. I'm going to be given a quote in writing, and I'm going to read the quote, and the game is I have to decide, is that a Bobby Fischer quote or is that a Noam Chomsky quote? After I guess, we'll actually have a clip, and we'll play the clip, and we'll see if I can guess whether it was Noam Chomsky who said it or Bobby Fischer who said it. I think this is the best game. And obviously, it's going to be my team is going to have to set it all up for me and give me the quote images and then the files. And because, it needs to be done in a way where I'm not going to know. But I think that this is a fantastic game. I'm going to email the team about it. And hopefully, maybe even by next week, we've got a lot going on. But maybe by next week, we could have it ready. Jacob Ratner says, Sir, how do we stop Republican whitewashing of January 6th.
Sir.
We've got to just keep going and continue to point out that they're not telling the truth. There's really no other way to do it. It's just a matter of repetition. I want to say thank you to Chris Mitsakopoulos. Chris Mitsakopoulos has just signed up on joinpacman.com with the coupon code SADTRUMP and his new member number 18 today. I really appreciate that, Chris. And Trump's existence has just become so sad that those are the oranges of the coupon code SADTRUMP. Maddie says, "Sir, I left you a very power voicemail. Please read it on air." I don't know that I'm able to read a voicemail. I don't know how we do that. It's complex. Let me see if I've got any other things here. Keep on the good work. We're also going to listen to an email a little bit later. It's going to be pretty wild, not going to lie. Okay. I don't know if we want to get into this. You know what? Let's just get into it. So I've been asked to react to a Ben Shapiro clip. I don't know what we're about to see. Let's just dive in. It looks like we have a little bit of time.
To get a flight out of town at a time certain with, getting everybody to come in from across the state, you need to fly privately.
I need to fly private. I can't fly with the peasants. The peasants smell and have chickens.
And now, in order to fight the supposed Republican Jim Crow assault, this means that Democrats have every ability to undermine the actual functioning workings of democracy. It's really impressive.
What is he talking about?
Unbelievable gaslighting and flip here. So the idea here is that Republicans are subverting elections by saying that voters should have verifiable means of voting. That is subverting elections. That is the new Jim Crow.
Of course, that's a distortion of what Texas Republicans are trying to strategically restrict voting in order to benefit themselves. That's what they're trying to do.
Meanwhile, Texas Democrats, in order to stymie Republicans from pursuing this new Jim Crow, get to simply abscond from the state of Texas, violate the law, and shut down basic majoritarian democracy in Texas. And unlike on the national level, where we have a 50-50 split in the Senate, there is no 50-50 split in Texas. Republicans have an overwhelming majority in the state assembly in Texas. And so Democrats came up with a strategy. They didn't want to pass this voter ID law. They didn't want to pass a couple of bills that suggested that boys should play with boys and girls with girls in sports. And so they got on a plane and they flew to Washington, D.C. in order to deny Republicans a quorum. And these are the heroes of the day, according to the media.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think that they're heroes. And ultimately, I think they're going to lose. But Democrats just never fight. So I'm glad to see them try something. It will at least call attention to the reaction from Republicans, which was, let's see if we can arrest the Democrats. That was the reaction from many Republicans. So I admire that Democrats are doing something. Is it some big moral victory? No, it's not. And ultimately, they're going to lose on this because, as Ben points out, they don't have the majority. But what on earth is he talking about?
If you undermine democracy by simply walking out of the chamber and leaving the state so that you can't...
The voter suppression bill undermines democracy. They're trying to pass a bill to undermine democracy.
Be brought back to the chamber to vote in majoritarian fashion. Now you're a hero. You see, the filibuster is bad. A long-held standard in the United States Senate that's supposed to promote debate and conciliation. That's really bad and anti-democratic. But if an entire political party in Texas picks up, gets on a private jet, and flies to Washington, D.C., while patting themselves on the back in order to deny the workings of democracy, that's not only not anti-democratic, it is pro-democratic, you see.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is mostly straw men. Ben Shapiro is taking down straw men. I've not seen anybody call what Texas Democrats did some kind of incredible act of heroism. It's like you don't have the majority. And Republicans in Texas are trying to pass a bill to stifle voting rights. So they are getting attention on what's going on. And the attention is leading to Texans calling their elected officials and saying, don't pass this bill, don't pass this bill. They figured out a way to get attention on this. And Republicans reacted by saying, let's send Texas state troopers to arrest the Democrats. So it's not some incredible heroic thing, but it's an interesting way, given that you don't have the majority and the majority is trying to use their power to make it harder for people to vote, to get some attention on what's going on. That's it. It's not so black and white. It's not he's putting up a straw man and then taking it down.
Now, you may be saying to yourself, I don't see a consistent standard here. Correct. You don't.
No, you're not even telling the truth about what's being said.
Is none. There's no consistent standard. When it comes to the Democratic Party and the media, the answer is whatever forwards the agenda is good, and whatever does not forward the agenda is Jim Crow. And Joe Biden is fully on board with this because the way you hold political power, according to Joe Biden, is you gin up an enormous amount of faux outrage, and then you claim that your political opponents are the equivalent of George Wallace standing in a schoolhouse door.
Oh, God, here we go.
Okay, so Texas Democrats absconded over the course of the last couple of days. They just picked up and they got in a private jet and they left. And they partied it up. In fact, they were bragging about what a wonderful time they were having in Washington, D.C. These are true emissaries of the people, by the way. They got in a private jet and they brought along a case of Miller Lite just in case any of them decided that their drinking habit couldn't last for the...
How is this even remotely relevant to the 250 bills proposed after the November election to make it harder for people to vote? That's the issue. Miller Lite, private jets, maybe these are important details to some people, but there's 250 bills trying to restrict voting rights.
4-hour flight from Texas, from Austin to Washington, D.C. Gene Wu, a Texas legislator, tweeted out a picture of what appears to be a Caesar salad with croutons. He said, "My fist meal as a fugitive." I assume he meant a first meal. I don't want to know what he does in the privacy of his own home. He said, "My fist meal as a fugitive. Delicious." Well, what a hero. And then he tweeted.
There's not even anything to respond. It's just so dumb, guys. It's so dumb. I don't know what else to even say about it. Who watches that? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Okay. Dive Down said, let's read some super chats. Keep it going, David. How can people not see Republican voter suppression? But I am for voter ID. Countries in Europe has it, but voter ID should be for free. Right. So here's the thing. I am not opposed to voter ID in principle. I am not opposed to voter ID in principle. I am not opposed to voter ID in principle. Whoa, hold on. The problem is that when you change the rules, right? When you change the rules, you have to think about how is it being, what is the on-ramp for the rule change? And what documents are required to get the ID? How many places in the state can you get those documents? Do any of the documents you need to get your free ID cost money? Who is going to be unable if it takes, if you can only get some of these documents 9 to 5 Monday through Friday? Who is going to be able to disproportionately get that time off to go and get what they need versus not? Okay, so it's far more complex than they want to make it out to be. But in principle, I am not opposed to needing an ID to vote. It's the implementation that is being proposed that I am opposed to. Bucks&6, David, any tips on learning to speak Spanish? Could you recommend a program? I really couldn't. I have no idea. I mean, I just learned Spanish being born in Argentina. So I don't know. Does Shapiro sound like Mandark from Dexter's Lab? I don't know what that is. Uncle Joe meets with Mutti Merkel. We are in good hands. Mutti means mother. Okay. Dang old tell ya what, Bobby, says simply, sir.
Sir.
Okay. And I think that gets me caught up as far as super chats are concerned. I do want to say thanks to some really, really great people who just signed up on my website. Paul Scott just signed up with the coupon code SADTRUMP and is new member number 19 today. Also, a big thank you to Kevin Thompson, who signed up with the coupon code SADTRUMP and is new member number 20. And then Philip Kitschke, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, also signing up with the coupon code SADTRUMP and is new member number 21. Very much appreciate that. Also, thanks to Andrew Williams Cybersec, who signed up via Twitch Prime and is new member number 22. I actually would be interested today in speaking to Kenny, also known to some as Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II. If we have time, let me see if I can check in with him. Hey, are you live right now? Want to check in? Because I do want to talk to him about this Gusano thing that's going on. He says, yeah, sure. Okay, all right, let's see if we can connect with Steven real quick. Let's see what's going on here. Hold on. Input device, output device. Let's see.
Yeah, we see him.
Steven?
That's my name.
Hey, how are you?
Well, I'm doing great. I wish I could say the same for your audience that has to suffer through our conversation now. How are you doing?
Are you traveling right now?
No, I'm actually just got home a while ago. I feel
Oh,
good.
okay. Got it. So we did a review earlier of this, the whole Gusano thing. You commenting on Hassan and the entire thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's my life. So yeah, I know quite well. I lived it.
In other words, you remember the segment in question.
Oh, I don't remember your particular segment, but I remember doing it all yesterday.
Yeah, no, that's what you remember. That was yesterday. That you remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it quite vividly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm basically with you. I stay away from any. Well, I find it to be a racialized term because it's disproportionately applied to white Latin Americans like me. Although the white supremacists say I'm not white because I'm Jewish, but that's a story for a different day, you know.
Yeah.
But I try to stay away from any of these racialized terms, and it's just not for me. I tend to agree with your take on it.
My favorite part is that it's fun because I fought with so many different sides of the political aisle is people will say things like, well, actually, it's not racialized because Cuban is not an ethnicity, which is technically true. However, I remember I argued a lot against those arguments 4 or 5 years ago when I would hear weird things where Republicans were saying shit like, I don't want any dirty fucking Muslims in this country. I don't want any Mexicans. And I'd be like, that's a little bit racist. And they'd always go well, actually, Mexican is
a nationality. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, chief, come on, right? Yeah. I just thought it's really weird because because you wouldn't call me a Gusano if you didn't happen to know that my mom was Cuban. So that's a really weird insult to use. And I've actually never had, it's funny because people on the right that I've debated have never attacked me over my national or ethnic background before, but only people on the left do, which I think is really funny. But
yeah, I mean, the other thing is it's not, I think it originally meant anti-Castro Cubans, but it's been widely expanded just to basically be any typically white Central or South American who disagrees with these sort of faux left populist regimes. That's basically it'll apply. It's used for everybody. It's used against me.
No, it's even broader now.
Oh, is it?
It's my understanding is you're correct. In the 50s or 60s or whatever, I think Fidel Castro started calling the anti-revolutionary Cubans Gusanos, or at least I think that's where it originated, at least for Cubans. But nowadays, it's just if you have any background that's Caribbean or South American or whatever, and you're not far left, you're just a Gusano.
Oh, okay.
That's literally it.
It's even more broad.
Yeah.
Would you say at this point that you're the most prominent Cuban American streamer on Twitch?
I'm not actually sure. Maybe.
I'm trying to think who else there is.
I'm sure there's somebody out there.
Yeah. No, I think that's something that we could maybe leverage in some way.
Well, when you figure out how to leverage it, just let me know, okay?
Yeah. I mean, and now just to be clear, because I know some people are going to run to Hassan, I'm glad to talk to Hassan about this. I would have him on. I have no. This is not. I'm not involving myself in any. I think it's just an issue about which we can disagree. Right? Or is that not your take?
The problem is that, I mean, at the end of the day, I actually don't give a fuck about it that much. I just think it's funny that people that woke signal so hard over so many things will are frothing the mouth to try to call me some type of weird slur. I think it's really fucking funny.
Whoa.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's what it is. What it is. Whatever. Been called worse things by lefties. So.
What else? What arcs are you currently involved in?
Well, I don't know. I guess. Well, right now we're doing the Cuba stuff a little bit, where people think that the embargo that we've had for 60 years has just now magically caused all this horrible shit to happen in Cuba, and it couldn't have possibly been anything else. It's definitely the embargo. And then I don't know, other random shit has been going on. Just been talking about.
Yeah, my take on. I mean, I don't know exactly what you've said about Cuba, but my take on Cuba has been the following. I've been against the embargo for a long time because I think it's hypocritical, and it also is not going to achieve what it was originally meant to achieve, which is to force a change of the system of government in Cuba. At the same time, I'm a progressive and I'm an anti-authoritarian. So there's no planet on which I'm going to say the 50-year military regime where the leaders wear the military uniforms and there's no real elections. I'm for that in any way. And somebody called me up and said, yeah, but David, you're not understanding that Castro came to power because of real Cuban protests against a terrible administration that was in place in the early 50s. I'm completely on board with that, but I'm not going to support the 1959 to 2021 regime. That's just, there's nothing progressive about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the current government, but maybe I'm just optimistic. I feel like the embargo is really dumb. It's hard for me to imagine that Cuba is so close to the US. Like, if we were trading and we had like a fucking ton of tourists flying back and forth and shit, do we not think that like as the economy liberalizes, the people would chill a little bit more? Like, I don't know. I feel like having an enemy like off like fucking 50 miles away from Key West is just really strange. I wish that we would just fuck off all the embargo shit and just go back to trading with them. I was really happy when Obama started to thaw kind of the relations and all those flights opened up that were going to Havana and shit. But Trump completely and totally 180'd on fucking all of it. And the problem is that all of our embargo shit is like so deeply embedded across like 5 or 6 different pieces of legislation that getting rid of it is going to require so much political capital that Democrats basically have to say like, okay, we're just going to acknowledge that we're never winning Florida again for the next fucking 50 years because I'm speaking as a Cuban. Holy fuck, Cubans hate the country of Cuba. Oh,
yeah. I was just I was actually just in Miami and I had a bunch of Cuban Lyft drivers. And you know, it's very interesting because they're not Republicans in the wacky Trumpian sense where like the first 70% of my conversation with them was very, very reasonable. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, they voted for Trump because they saw Biden as an actual communist who was going to play coy with Cuba. It's a weird thing because it's not like meeting some QAnon conspiracy theorist. You know, it's a very, it's a unique thing actually, Cuban conservatism.
Yeah, people, I'm trying hard to. You're walking me through all of the audience pitfalls that makes your audience hate me. So I blame you for this. But a lot of very young white Americans don't understand that there are a lot of brown South Africans that come to the U.S. that don't really have the most positive views of socialism. That there are a lot of people, believe it or not, that genuinely left Cuba in the first exodus. I think in the early 60s, a lot of those were like political dissidents, like Batista supporters, people that legitimately did hate the revolution. But there were a lot more after that. There were the whole freedom flights, the Mariel boat lifts, like, and those were a lot of people that were just like, yo, this country fucking sucks ass now. And a lot of these people, I'm sorry, South Americans, not South Africans, my bad. There were a lot of people that legitimately left because like, yeah, my bad. Because the country is legitimately falling apart. And then same thing with people that come from like Venezuela and shit. Like there are a lot of people, there are a lot of brown South Americans that have really bad experiences with like socialist regimes. And then when they come to the US and you've got all these like young white kids that are the most capitalist iPhone posting, tweeting motherfuckers in the world, talking about how great socialism and communism and shit is. A lot of these people look at them, it's like, I don't know about that, chief. Not to say that anybody's right or wrong. I'm just saying that their lived experiences aren't going to jive well with like the, you know, terminally online incessant Twitter poster.
Yeah, this is actually, there's this assumption, I think the right loves to play this up, but sometimes the left also believes it, that basically immigrants to the US are just liberal, period. And there's a bunch of different groups where it's not the case. Like, for example, I had a Chinese caller recently who explained, I think he's in his 20s, parents, you know, however old that would make his parents, that a lot of those Chinese immigrants are of that generation are also sort of like center right. Again, they're not QAnon people. They're not. It's not that. They're not evangelical Christians or anything like that. But they're sort of center right. I have a Ukrainian friend who said basically all of his Russian friends, not Ukrainian but Russian friends, they're all Trump people. Even in relatively blue states like New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, the immigrants are not just uniformly on the left the way many people think.
Yeah, like the problem, and this is actually scary for me because like I think that the Republican Party has a huge crisis right now because it's not really the Republican Party. There's a lot of those people that are literally now just Trump loyalists, period.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing this weird thing happening in the Republican Party where all these Republican lawmakers, they still have to simp for Trump because they have to, because they're otherwise they're never getting elected again. I feel like one of the only ways the Republican Party can kind of like work its way back, and Trump did a really good job at this, and the left did a really bad job at this, is appealing to right-leaning voters. Or, I'm sorry, not right-leaning voters, right-leaning voters of color, I guess.
Okay,
yeah, like people on the left don't realize this, but when it comes to social issues, like I don't know, persons of color, non-white voters in the United States tend to fall more to the right than the average white person, whether we're talking about stuff like gay marriage or LGBT acceptance or whatever, or like things like traditional gender roles, right? Again, as somebody that's Cuban, like I've heard, like I think my sister might have even had It's at a quinceañera, I think, where they
Yep.
celebrate like their 15th birthday party. Yeah,
Yeah.
There are people that still do this shit that are very traditional or whatever. And I've always said this with Republicans, it's the big danger. If Republicans could just stop being so fucking racist,
Right.
they would actually have so many allies in like the Islamic communities and in the black communities and in like the Mexican communities that come up to the United States. Like you would have so many allies there if you could just look past the fact that they're a different skin color than you.
Right.
With under Trump, that started to happen. There were a lot of Hispanic people that surprised people in the U.S. Like, wow, a lot of these motherfuckers are voting Republican. What's going on? Also, ACAB and get rid of all the police. I was like, okay, well, yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff there. I mean, the Prop 8 vote in California exposed that there's definitely the potential that the Republican Party could do much better with black voters who, because of religious connections, were not thrilled with the idea of gay marriage when the Prop 8 vote took place. Central and South Americans overwhelmingly Catholic, although it's important to know that like Central and South American Catholics are not necessarily Catholics in the sense that we sometimes imagine in the U.S., but still, if there was better outreach from the Republican Party, there's a real risk that many of them would vote that way. And obviously the Florida 2020 was an example of that.
Yeah, I mean, Catholics aren't quite like evangelicals.
No.
But I think that they're definitely more to the right socially, although that has changed, at least in my Catholic communities in the past 20 years, a bit in terms of being more accepting of like gay people in the concessions in your church or whatever. But I think that, yeah, Catholics, yeah, you're not, it's congression, right?
I have no idea. You mean
the name of your like your church?
Your
That's what I'm thinking of. Congregation, yeah.
Congregation. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go. You're the members of your church. Yeah. If they would do more outreach to those people and not be as so crazy racist towards them, I think that there is a lot of potential Republican support from those communities.
I totally agree.
Yeah, or Democrats need to be more cognizant of that. Yeah.
Well, Democrats have benefited by not seeing as much abandonment by those groups because, as you're pointing out, of the racism and the incompetence that takes place at the federal level. But at the local level, you see a lot more Republicans who are people of color in local positions, city councils and this type of thing. And every once in a while they go through and it's like, the people that Trump will point to and say, this is the guy I like, right? Like whether it's Tim Scott or whoever else, but that's actually a lot more common in local positions, school boards and this type of thing, which the right kills the left on.
That's one of the reasons why I'm like, and I know that we all have like different issues that we want people to focus on, but if this, I feel like, I think, does Biden call them kitchen table issues?
Yeah, I think so.
If like the infrastructure bill goes through and we get like all of this, like the child tax credit that should be going through and everything, I feel like those types of programs will hopefully bolster the view of the Democratic Party and like at least like the average working person's eyes, instead of focusing so much on the goddamn culture war shit, on the fucking police shit, on the being hyper fixated on like the Medicare for all policy. Like if we could just focus on like, hey, how do we get a lot of money to American workers, to poor people, to people with children? Like I think that those are the issues that will bolster the eyes of the average person in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, but at the same time, I talked to Rachel Bidikofer about this yesterday, I don't know if you know her, when the right is not even pretending to care about policy and they're just doing the culture stuff and saying the left is dangerous, you've got to fear the left, communism, socialism, they'll take your house, they'll take your kids, they'll take your schools, all this different stuff. Just talking about economic policy, I don't know that it's a strong enough way to fight it. I don't know about that.
While that is true, and this is all just feelings I have, I feel like the feeling is because for whatever reason, because they don't have the government in place to do it, and like they don't own enough of Congress to get these things passed. I feel like the reason is because the left is really good at talking about economic policy, but it's so hard to legislate it.
Yeah.
But I think that, and I could be wrong, but like if you're actually getting a $300 check every single month from the government for your kid, and that came off the back of a Republican Congress, and not a single goddamn Republican legislator signed on to any of this stuff, that has to resonate at some level. I hope to God. Maybe it won't. Maybe you're right, and maybe it will all still come down to like, well, is he pro or anti-abortion?
But isn't that going to be ancient history by November of 22?
I don't know. I mean, like Man, I like just going by my. So as somebody that I just started getting into streaming when I had a child, so I didn't have to suffer financially, thank God, while I had a kid. Although right up to the moment of him being born and everything, we had WIC, which stands for Women's and Infant Children, because we were trying to qualify for food aid and everything.
Yep.
$300 a month for a kid. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's in some states, if the father is poor enough, that's a fucking child support payment. You know,
Right.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that $300 a month, that's only the fronted half of that child tax credit, right? Because you still get no. If you get the $300 a month, that's different. You wouldn't qualify for the rest of the tax credit, but that's still that's a really big payment every single month. I feel like that has to be noticeable. Like it would blow my mind, but maybe not again. I hope for the best, because right now the biggest concern is a lot of poor people don't actually file taxes. They don't. They just work and they get their whatever and they don't file. And if you don't owe any money to the IRS, I don't think they actually care if you file or not. So
I don't know enough about that. I don't know enough about it to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of poor workers with children, unfortunately, that don't file taxes. So they're not going to be able to register for their $300 a month. And a lot of these people don't have internet access. They're not internet savvy.
Yep.
The government website is kind of a mess. I don't know if you ever tried setting up through the exchanges. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I the exchanges, because I just buy my own health insurance, since my business isn't big enough for us to have like a group plan. Not only are the plans terrible, but the system's terrible. I mean, it's all terrible.
Yeah. So I hope that a lot of poor people figure out how to get access to that. I know that there are, I think Medlock and a few other people are trying to get more people to raise awareness for it on Twitter. But yeah.
Hey, let me ask you this: where are you on this whole billionaire space race thing?
I think it's awesome. I've always wanted to go to space. And I think that when you start any new fledgling industry is probably going to have the richest people participate. That's my guess. It makes sense that if we're starting to do space tourism, it's going to be really expensive initially. So it's probably going to be billionaires doing it initially. But the idea that 20 years from now, you could pay $2,000 to get a ticket to go to low Earth orbit and float around for a bit and come back. That sounds so cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sensitive to the argument that people make where it's for what's being spent on this, you could basically end poverty or hunger or whatever. But it's clear those people are not going to put the money into that. And also, I mean, the per capita costs for any new technology at the beginning are very, very high, and we don't even know what other things are going to come from this. I am a fan of it, but I do recognize that on a per capita basis, the carbon footprint of this flight next week with Bezos, and I guess it's his brother and a kid and 4 people or whatever, the per capita cost and carbon footprint is completely nuts. But that's not unique to this. There's so many areas where that's the way it is at the beginning. I don't know. I have a hard time being mad about it, although I'm not a big Bezos guy, I'm not a Bezos cultist or anything like that.
I mean, I think that the problem is that a lot of people don't understand the orders of magnitude that we're talking about. And I could be wrong. I have to go look. I just did a quick Google search. My understanding is that they're spending in terms of how much Bezos is personally spending, is going to be on the scale of in the tens or hundreds of millions,
right,
or less than that. Yeah, that when you're talking about food entitlement programs in the entire country, you're on the scale of trillions. This is drops in the bucket.
Are food stamps trillions though? I'm not sure about that.
Well, when you're talking about you said things like ending poverty or ending hunger, right?
Yeah, okay. You're not doing it with $100 million. No, you're right about that.
You have to get into at least the tens or hundreds of billions, most likely the trillions, before you even begin to touch that.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. Well, wow. Okay. I mean, it seems like things are, do you feel like you're in an upswing right now from the standpoint of your streaming business and everything that you're doing? Is it a lull? Is it a decline?
I've chilled for a few months, just playing a lot of League, because this platform scares me, because I never know if I'm gonna get banned for saying something that I think is non-controversial. But I just got back from vacation, so we're watching stuff, we're reading stuff. Yeah.
Did you go anywhere interesting?
I went down to Key West.
Oh, really?
A few days.
What is it like there? I was just in Miami, and there were, I didn't see too many.
Wait, just in Miami when?
I was there June 25th.
Oh, okay. I was in Miami, I guess a week ago. So I shouldn't miss you again.
It was pretty nuts in Miami. I'm not gonna lie.
What do you mean by nuts?
I don't know. It's just let me just put it this way: if I were not vaccinated, I would have been very stressed during the trip.
Oh yeah, well, Florida's been like that the whole time.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me actually if Florida was safer than most places now, because most of those people have probably been fucking affected by now.
Right. Yeah. They're not vaccinated, but they may have they may have the recovery immunity at this point. How many vaccines have you gotten so far?
So I just did my third. I just finished my second shot of the Pfizer one.
So you're up to 6. Okay.
No, just the Pfizer. Okay. Do you only watch? Oh God, I was gonna make a Lord of the Rings joke, but I don't remember the names of the movies.
Hello.
Yeah, I got a lot of vaccines. No, I had my 2 Pfizer shots a while ago, and I feel pretty okay. It's pretty sad. I think probably there's a few things that have happened. I'm not like a big I hate America person, but the vaccine situation is something that I am so unimaginably disappointed on.
Yeah, it's completely demoralizing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there's people in countries all over the world desperate for these vaccines, desperate. And here it's like you can just walk in anywhere and it's just like, nah, I don't think I'm going to get it. Nah, just not going to get it.
Like, my understanding is that people in even Canada or Sweden, you'll get you book an appointment for a vaccine, and then 2 months later you'll get the first shot,
right?
And then you get your second shot 2 months later. And Melina came over when I was getting my vaccines here, and she's from Sweden. And I went to the store, and they're like, "Hey, if she wants one too, we've got extra slots, we're giving them out." It's like, oh. And she got both of her Pfizer vaccines in the United States. That's how available it is here.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't even think we're going to hit the 60% vaccinated rate. It's unbelievable.
I think we will hit 60 because we're doing, I mean, it's pathetic, but we're doing 500,000 shots a day. So I do think we'll get to 60%, but it's depressing. But in fact, when I landed in Miami, I had a Lyft driver who said he's not getting it because after his mom's second shot, she became totally magnetic and metal stuff was sticking to her.
David, my mom, when I talked to her last, was saying because my dad had to get a shot because he works at security at a nuclear power plant. And so they have teams and stuff. So they have to be vaccinated so they don't get sick. And my mom actually told me that she was waiting a little bit to stick a magnet to my dad's arm because she hasn't gotten vaccinated yet. And she's 65.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and it's actually so incredibly frustrating. We had an Uber driver in Miami, actually, in South Beach, and me and my friend were talking to this guy, and oh my God, he was a Hispanic, he was clearly a Spanish speaker, speaking English as a second language, not like some old white redneck guy, right? Talking about how The Simpsons predicted 9/11 and how there's a lot of weird stuff with the government, and you don't trust any of that crazy vaccine stuff. And oh man, I'm not gonna lie, David. We inhabit this space, but I will say, I think that alternative media has been one of the worst things to happen to the world. This space has been so incredibly toxic.
You're saying because of all the conspiracy stuff that just is out there.
And it goes, and there's just there's one key. Okay, I'm curious if you get, there is one key thing that separates alternative media from mainstream media. Do you know what that one thing is? It's a word that starts with the letter A.
A, assholes?
No, accountability. People talk about how mainstream media messes things up, and they do, but there is no accountability in alternative media. You can be like James O'Keefe is a really good example.
Yeah.
You can get one thing wrong after another, and who cares? He's still O'Keefe. It's still Project Veritas.
He's still a top guest at CPAC or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, I remember 5 or 6 years ago, this should have been the dawning moment for me when because I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, Glenn Beck, all the conservative guys. And my mom, I asked my mom, I was like, hey, have you listened to Glenn Beck recently? How do you feel? Because he's pretty anti-Trump, so I'm curious what you think about him. And my mom was like, oh, I don't really listen to conservative stuff like that anymore. And I actually was so happy. And I was like,
they moved on to online conspiracy nuttery though.
Correct. They moved on to Facebook memes.
Right. No, that's really, it's crazy what's going on. It's just completely insane. What are your spots that you like in South Beach? What do you like doing there?
I just have friends that live there, and then Melina really likes the beach. She's a big beach person.
Yep.
So.
Any restaurants that you recommend?
There's a Cuban one my mom likes to go do, but it's way south in Homestead. It's called Mario's.
It's not in South Beach.
No. In terms of what's in South Beach, I don't even know where we went. I think we just go to chain restaurants, steakhouses and whatever.
Are you serious? Oh, so you're like a Ruth's Chris guy and stuff like that?
Yeah, or a what's the other one called? Is it Fleming's? Am I making that up?
I have no idea.
Yeah, they stuff like that. I'm sure.
Now here, good, I'm interested because you're a gentleman of a certain level of worldliness, and you're cosmopolitan and all of these different things. What makes you think, hey, I'm in South Beach, there's all these one-off restaurants and all this stuff, I'm going to go to a chain? What's going on that's what you do?
Well, normally I just don't care that much, and I don't want to wait outside in the humid, muggy heat for 35 minutes to get a seat somewhere. So, yeah.
Are you familiar with Open Table?
There's like 30 of those apps on your phone. Maybe next time if I would have planned out more, maybe I'll do it. Okay.
Yeah, next time. I mean, there's so many great places. Like, do you like sushi? You got Blue Ribbon Sushi in South Beach.
Hate seafood.
Oh boy, Silvano's, which they had a fire, unfortunately, but it's like a great Italian place, and you've got the Sandwichery. I mean, there's just, I think we've got to work on this as the most prominent, I would argue, and I will stand by it, Cuban American streamer currently on Twitch. I think we need to equip you for some of these cultural experiences down there.
Yeah, if you ever have recommendations, if people recommend me a restaurant, I'll go every time for sure. It's just a matter of like scheduling that and making sure it fits in with what I'm doing and everything. Yeah.
Can I just very briefly ask about the seafood thing? Because not liking fish is often one of those like childish things that people grow out of. But I know that you're from Nebraska, so I'm assuming that it's a childhood based thing.
Yeah. So like, here's my issue. Yeah. I think that growing up, eating seafood in the Midwest is way different than eating it on the coast. Because I've had like a lot of what I imagine is pretty good sushi now in LA. I had seafood in Cancun. It was good. I say quote unquote good, but I don't really care for it. But I think in the Midwest,
you didn't like it and you had no frame of reference, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, because seafood in the Midwest, I don't know how to explain this. Someone that it has a very fishy taste, and it's very disgusting.
Yeah,
like it's just ugh. But like eating fresh seafood on the coast, it's okay. And I've eaten, I went with a friend. I don't know if you know him. He used to be MTV superstar, Andy Milonakis, pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, but he rattles me all the time because he's like, oh, you need to try more food, Steve. Because we're on a first name basis because we're really close and everything.
Sure, yeah.
But he told me to go to there was some sushi restaurant we went to where it was like it's like $200. The chef serves you like 15 different types of sushi.
Right. An omakase, a chef's tasting menu.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and I ate it all, and I thought it was like okay, but I would never in my life go and order like good seafood over like a really good steak or something. Like I'm going to a steakhouse every time. That's just maybe it'll change in the future. When I went to Cancun, I ate seafood there and it was like edible. I could eat it, not throw up. But it's just like, why would I ever get something like this over like a really good steak or some really good like fried chicken or some really good Italian food or like, I don't know why I would do it. Yeah.
This take is scaring me. I'm not going to lie, Kenny.
Well, apparently the place was called En Naka. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Right. No, I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So but supposedly it's like a little place. It seats like, I think like 15 people, but yeah.
Next time I'm in LA, let's me, you, and Andy go. And then I'll analyze and report back on the entire thing.
Okay, sure thing.
Yeah, good. By the way, next time I'm in LA, me, you, and Hassan, we're doing dinner again, right?
Is that happening? Yeah, let me know when he agrees to that and I'll be there, okay?
Yeah, okay, good. All right, Stephen, it's always a pleasure. It seems like things are really advancing over there.
Thanks. I try to advance things as much as I can,
All right, we got Biden and Merkel coming up, so you and I can catch up soon.
Okay, well, I love you, buddy. Stay safe.
All right, take care. Love you. See ya. Bye. All right, there is Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II. What an appearance. What an appearance. I guess we should try with Hassan, right? I mean, it's like let's see what's going on with Hassan. Hey, are you streaming? Would love to check in about the Gusano situation if you're up for it. Let's see if Hassan is available. And we're standing by for Joe Biden. He's now about an hour late and should be starting any second. Okay, yeah, anyway, I sent Hassan a message, and I don't know, he actually doesn't really respond to me anymore, interestingly, but... All right, let's look at a few super chats here. You said today Trump won the 2016 primary without Putin's help, but the Republican-led Senate Intel Committee reported Russia targeted Trump's opponents during the primary and even further back. Okay, yeah, let me revisit that then. I'd rather a billionaire go into space than it being NASA and taxpayer funded. In general, space travel is a frivolous waste of money. I disagree that it's frivolous. I think we learn a lot from it. Oh, and I'm sorry. I've fallen so far behind on so many things. I want to say thank you to Blaze King, New Jersey, who is new member number 23 today. I also want to thank Desiree DeLong, who just signed up on my website with the coupon code SADTRUMP and is new member number 24 today.
Dumps.
Exactly. I appreciate that. I would encourage you, by the way, drop in a Twitch Prime sub or sign up on my website. It's all very exciting. Can you Prime sub on an iPhone? I have no idea. I've never used an iPhone. I was handed one the other day and I didn't know how to even use it. Many West Indian immigrants would be center right if Republicans weren't so blatantly racist. Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about. Exactly what we were talking about. Do you know of hydro and aeroponic agricultural techniques when it comes to minimizing drought? These techniques use 90% less water. Most water used is by agriculture. Want to see your take on this? I don't know enough about it. That would be a great story, though, for Epic Gardening to take. I think I would love to see a take from Epic Gardening. We actually had a great call yesterday. Perfect phone call. Hassan said he doesn't care about the term and would rather jump off a bridge. Man, I wonder if Hassan doesn't like me anymore. That's interesting. We used to have a great relationship. We hung out a couple times. It's interesting. Maybe there's something about my politics now where Hassan has cut me off. I don't even really know. It's really weird. We have a lot of mutual friends and stuff where you guys know I have no problem. Hassan's been talking about it all day. He doesn't like you're associated with Destiny. I'm no more associated with Destiny than I am with him. Like the last time I saw one of them, I saw the other. We did the same thing. We just went to dinner. It's kind of interesting. Let's see what's going on. Hassan Twitch. I'm curious what's happening over there. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I would actually be. It would be sad if he cut me off. Oh my God. What on earth? All right, let's give it a second. And we're still standing by for Joe Biden, by the way. Yeah, no, I don't know. But I see a lot of pretty aggressive rhetoric here. I don't really know about any of that stuff. But I can only report to you my experience. Let's see.
Burning cross to a black conservative who said being black is lit. And he said, oh, is that...
Oh, wait, so is he just doing Destiny content?
And be like, oh my God, I'm so offended that people are using the term gusano, a term that most people had to fucking Google immediately after I fucking mentioned it for the first time ever. And it's actually certainly not political and can only be used against Cubans. And it's not just a catch-all fucking term that a lot of leftist Latin Americans use against people that they perceive to be like capitalist, anti-imperialist, counter-revolutionaries. I'm so offended. I'm so offended.
What?
It's just the same shit. This dude literally just uses social justice and people of color as a fucking prop just to be like, I'm so offended on behalf of everyone else. He's no different than he's the edgy SJW with fucking blue hair. Okay. That's all he is. He literally just weaponizes social justice when it's appropriate and then writes a fucking manifesto about trying to defend that all the black people calling him out for saying the N-word in private are actually wrong and racist.
What?
And racist. I'm sorry, dude. Once you say, you want to mow down fucking BLM protesters, you've lost a high ground on an argument that you want to make about fucking a political term that you are now choosing to be offended. Okay? God damn. Gusano is literally in the same fucking vein as Karen, a certain type of behavior,
which I'm against, yeah,
for sex, technically, okay, and in the same vein as saying cracker or honky or redneck. It is a language. It is a term.
Those are pretty bad terms, guys. I don't know.
Have come up with to describe the conditions of their oppression and the continued conditions of their oppression by those who would wish to oppress them. Okay?
I don't know. Most of the people I see using the term gusano don't seem too oppressed to me, guys. I don't know.
About this is being absolutely ridiculous. Having said that, do a lot of people on the left, I guess, utilize this word against anyone that they're like, oh, are you Cuban? Well, you're a gusano because you fucking criticize Cuba. Like, oh, shut the fuck up.
I think what he's missing is the racial element of the term.
Fuck up. Like, just stop fucking calling every Cuban person a gusano. You're not.
I haven't seen a Hassan stream for a while. Is this what it always is? Because I can see, I mean, I see why he has so many followers, because it's like rage, high level rage all the time. That I can see why he's doing so well. I mean, good for Hassan.
In Cuba, whether it be legitimate claims that they have to get more food and medical supplies, or to lift the fucking embargo that has been going on for 70
I'm with that. I'm with all of that. Yeah. Okay. I'm with all of that, but you're never going to hear me praise an authoritarian regime that's been in power for 50, 60 years, you know?
Is a total diversion, and it's exclusively centering around what mostly predominantly white American fucking liberals want to argue about, because it's about the sport. It's not about uplifting Cuba or Cuban people. It's just about the support. It's just about the sport of debate, the blood sport that revolves around debating and like winning an argument with semantics.
Right. No, I actually agree with, in the sense that, like, I'm not trying to be the anti-imperialist or the capitalist or what, you know, it's just like, hey, the embargo is a disaster. It's failed. We got to help with elements of medical, and we can't defend any authoritarian regime. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's sort of like everybody would disagree with some aspect, many people would disagree with some aspect of that. But I think the blood sport aspect, he's rightly identifying that is bad.
Slurs that are considered fucked up, for the record. So I just want you to know that, like, he is absolutely fucking just engaging in this just to be like, come on, dude. I'm just trying to claw into that fucking relevance. Okay.
Yeah.
He's not. He's a ridiculous person. It's an unserious person. And this is an unserious conversation to have.
I feel like we could have dinner again and it would be fine. You know, we Hassan, Stephen, Kenneth, Destiny, Benel II, and I had Indian food, and Melina, Destiny, Benel II came with us, and my manager came with us, who's a friend of Hassan's. It was great. It was a good. I think that it would be totally fine. I don't think I feel like I'd be able to negotiate it all, and everybody would be fine.
Destiny tells an interesting story about Hassan. This is a lie. He said in his chat that.
All right. Anyway, let's get away from this. I think we've seen enough, and here we go.
Today, it's been my great honor, and I mean that, to welcome a dear friend back to the White House. And before I say anything else, Chancellor Merkel, I want to express to you and to the people of Germany my sincere condolences and the condolences of the American people for the devastating loss of life and the destruction due to the flooding over the past 24 hours in Germany and neighboring countries. It's a tragedy, and our hearts go out to the families who've lost loved ones. Chancellor Merkel has been here frequently over the past 16 years. Matter of fact, she knows the Oval Office as well as I do. But all kidding aside, though this administration, she's been there for 4 years, for 4 presidents. But I want to take a moment to acknowledge the historic nature of her chancellorship. First woman chancellor in German history, the first chancellor from the former East Germany, and now the second longest serving chancellor since Helmut Kohl. Here's an exemplary
okay, guys.
Groundbreaking
second largest
to Germany and
was not a great slip.
To the world. On behalf of the United States, thank you, Angela, for your career of a strong, principled leadership. And thank you for speaking out for what is right and for never failing to defend human dignity. And I want to thank you for your continued support for the long-standing goal of a Europe whole, free, and at peace. You've been a stalwart champion of the Transatlantic Alliance, the Atlantic Partnership. Under your chancellorship, the friendship and cooperation between Germany and the United States has grown stronger and stronger. And I'm looking forward to celebrating more at our dinner this evening, but today was very much a working visit. Chancellor Merkel and I covered a wide range of issues where Germany and the United States are working to advance a shared agenda. We discussed together with our fellow major democracies at the G7, Germany and the United States have responsibilities to lead with our values, as do the other members of NATO.
Right.
And today, I've confided that in our new Washington Declaration, which we've codified, a document affirming our commitment to the democratic principles that are at the heart of both of our nations, and how we will apply them to meet the biggest challenges of today and tomorrow. Both our nations understand the imperative of proving that democracies can deliver the needs of our people in the second quarter of the 21st century. We will stand up for democratic principles and universal rights when we see China or any other country working to undermine free and open societies. And we are united in our commitment to addressing democratic backsliding, corruption, phony populism in the European Union or among candidates for the EU membership or anywhere we find it in the world. We agree on the importance of further integrating the Western Balkans into European institutions, and in our continued support for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, as well as the continued importance of reforms in the support of their Euro-Atlantic aspirations. We stand together and will continue to stand together to defend our eastern flank allies at NATO against Russian aggression. And while I reiterated my concerns about Nord Stream 2, Chancellor Merkel and I are absolutely united in our conviction that Russia must not be allowed to use energy as a weapon to coerce or threaten its neighbors. And today, we're launching a climate and energy partnership to support energy security and the development of sustainable energy technologies, and emerging economies, including in Central Europe and Ukraine. To unite our efforts to upend and on our global climate ambitions, that we have to up the ante. What happened, as we talked about, when Paris Accord was set, we thought we had established just how serious it was, but things have gotten much more dire since even that date. And to unite our efforts to up the ante on global climate ambitions. I also thank Chancellor Merkel for the dedication and the sacrifice of German troops who have served side by side along with U.S. forces in Afghanistan for almost 20 years. And we reaffirmed our shared commitment to continuing to counter terrorist threats where we find them, including in the Sahel in Africa. And when we think about the future we want for the world, there's no issue set at all that I believe we find anything other than the certainty that a commitment that between the United States and Germany doesn't benefit whatever the problem and the concern is. We need to fight COVID-19 pandemic everywhere to strengthen global health security for tomorrow, so we're ready for the next pandemic. We need to make sure that the rules of the road governing the use of emerging technologies advance freedom, not authoritarianism and repression. And we need to promote a sustainable and inclusive economic recovery that enhances the prosperity and opportunity for all, and so much more. This isn't just work of governments. It's the work of our peoples, sharing their innovation and insights, joining together to amplify our collective impact. So today, we're launching a Futures Forum between our two countries, which will bring together top experts across business, academia, civil society, and more to collaborate as we shape our shared future. Madam Chancellor, I know that the partnership between Germany and the United States will continue to grow stronger on the foundation that you have helped to build. But on a personal note, I must tell you, I'll miss seeing you at our summits. I truly will. So thank you again, Angela, for making the journey, for our productive meeting today, and for your friendship.
Wow.
Sehr geehrter Herr Präsident, lieber Joe, zuerst einmal herzlichen Dank für die Anteilnahme an den Flutopfern und Betroffenen in Deutschland. Das wissen wir sehr zu schätzen. Und ich bitte auch,
Ooh, they gotta get these levels fixed here.
Worte sagen möchte, denn in den überschwemmten Orten in Nordrhein-Westfalen und Rheinland-Pfalz ist jetzt der Tag schon fast zu Ende. Ein Tag von Angst,
Dear God.
Leben und Besitz. Ein Tag der Sorge und Verzweiflung. Hunderttausende mussten erleben, dass ihre alltägliche Umgebung urplötzlich zum Katastrophengebiet wurde. Wohnhäuser zu Todesfallen.
I heard catastrophe, but they've got to get her down and the live interpretation up.
Das Ausmaß der Tragödie werden wir erst
Let's see if maybe on the White House feed it's better.
Hundreds of thousands of people all of a sudden were faced with catastrophe. Their houses
There's catastrophe.
literally death traps. Small rivers turned into flooded, devastating rivers. And I must say that my empathy and my heart goes out to all of those who in these catastrophes lost their loved ones or who are still worrying about the fate of people still missing. And I include Belgium, Luxembourg and the Netherlands who've also suffered from floodings. Rescuers, first responders are doing their utmost to help people. I must say that I'm very much feeling with those who've suffered, and I know that millions of people in Germany feel the same. The minister presidents of Dreyer, Ms. Dreyer and Mr. Laschet, minister presidents of Rhineland-Palatinate and North Rhine-Westphalia, respectively, and also the ministers who are responsible here. I talked to them, and I would like to send out a message to the people that we will not leave them alone with their suffering, and that we're trying our utmost to help them in their distress. Mr. President, dear Joe, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for making it possible to talk to you. It's my first visit since 2019, and I'm so much so happy about the personal exchange. We have seen again today that we're not only partners and allies, but we're very close friends. And thank you for the very friendly exchange.
Do you guys think that like Trump, Biden will refer to her as a quote bitch later today?
Determination to tackle the challenges of our times, to master them. And I'm deeply convinced that simply committing to these values is certainly not sufficient. We are living at a crucial moment in time where we are facing new challenges, and these challenges need to be translated into practical policy. So I'm very grateful that we have this opportunity to work on foundations, and we lay down those foundations in the Washington Declaration, and also
By the way, I'm going to be taking some pretty strong Lufthansa flights in the next few weeks, and I'm even going to be in Frankfurt. I'm going to have one dinner in Frankfurt, if you can imagine it. I'm going to have to make it a good one, right?
together, what sort of solutions they think are appropriate, and I think such structures are very important. There is a very large degree of common ground, as has come out of our talks. We are convinced, both of us, that overcoming this pandemic is only possible if as many people as possible are vaccinated in our countries, and many wish to do that. We have to also support the rest of the world with vaccines. We work together with COVAX, and I'm very grateful to the United States that under your leadership, dear Joe, the U.S. has committed itself very clearly and unequivocally to multilateralism, be it on climate, be it on reform of the World Health Organization, and support also to WTO. Germany and the United States have agreed to provide vaccine doses to poorer countries. We work within COVAX, as I said. We talked about the challenge of climate change, and I am very happy that the United States are now back again with us in the Paris Climate Agreement, and that for Glasgow, that provides us with a totally different basis in order to work among the parties to the treaty better, in a much better and much more efficient way for climate. And we see countries that are besought by floodings, by wildfires, and by storms in an increasing manner, and that shows that there is a dramatic increase in such unusual weather phenomena, and we have to contend with this. Germany and the United States have now forged an energy and climate partnership. I think it's a very important message that we're sending here. We want to build on future-oriented technologies, green hydrogen, for example, renewables, electromobility. We're in competition with others on this planet, and we would like to be successful together, and Germany is very much looking forward to cooperating in this respect. And I support the President in what he proposed as a global infrastructure project, which we agreed on the G7 summit. Next year, as you probably know, we will have the chairmanship of the presidency of the G7, and we will bring this project forward. We talked about Russia and Ukraine, and in this context also about Nord Stream 2. We've come to different assessments as to what this project entails. But let me say very clearly,
that little line, we've come to different assessments, that would be like a 24-hour Trump tantrum attacking her for her position. But the diplomacy is we've come to different assessments.
I'm engaged and continue to be engaged in the Minsk process. We will be actively acting should Russia not respect this right of Ukraine that it has as a transit country. So Nord Stream 2 is an additional project and certainly not a project to replace any kind of transit through Ukraine. Anything else would obviously create a lot of tension. And we're also talking about how we can actually make this very clear together. We also talked about other priorities in our foreign policy, for example, our relationship with China. We are countries who stand up for free, democratic societies, stand up for those rights, civic rights for those who live in these societies. So wherever human rights are not guaranteed, we will make our voices heard and make clear that we don't agree with this. We are also for territorial integrity of all countries of the world. We also talked about the many facets of cooperation and also of competition with China, be it in the economic area, be it on climate protection, be it in the military sector, and on security. And obviously, there are a lot of challenges ahead. On the nuclear agreement with Iran, JCPOA, we think that everything ought to be done in order to bring this to a successful conclusion. But I think that is something that is also, the ball very much here is also in the Iranian camp. Now, over many, many years, we've served together in Afghanistan. You've been able to contain, to a certain degree, terrorist dangers, but unfortunately we have not been able to build a nation as we would like it to look. And still, I would hold it was a good partnership, has been a good partnership with the United States.
You know, after 20 years, we may not be able to make that country what we think we should. And it's probably time to get out, yeah.
We also talked about Sahel, the Sahel zone, where terrorism is on the rampage. And obviously for us in Europe, this is a great challenge. And also for the countries on the ground, we're very grateful to the United States for their mission in order to contain and push back against these terrorist advances. We also have drawn up we've also agreed on a German-American dialogue between our business communities, because we have considerable trade links and we wish to build on this. And obviously, the economy and economic ties are of prime importance to us. It was a very, very good exchange. We're close partners. I would like this to remain even after I have left office. And I think with this visit, we probably paved the way to make it possible to also create formats where we can exchange, because the world will continue to be a place that is full of challenges. So thank you very much for making it possible for us to tackle those together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're each going to take 2 questions, and I'm going to begin by...
Whoa, don't go crazy now.
Steve Portnoy, and congratulate you on your new role as president of the White House Correspondents Association. my sympathies. No, but thank you.
I appreciate that, sir. On behalf of the press corps, thank you. And we're looking forward to the day we can have even more reporters all the way to the back of the room. So thank you very much. I have a couple of questions for you, also a question for the Chancellor. But Mr. President, with respect to Latin America and the developments there in the last week plus,
yes.
What are the circumstances under which you would send American troops to Haiti? That's the first question. The second question is, when it comes to Cuba, what is your current thinking on American sanctions toward Cuba and the embargo?
End them.
Today, your press secretary said that communism is a failed ideology. I assume that's your view. I was wondering if you could also give us your view on socialism.
Oof, this is going to be good.
The question is,
good question.
Madam, the president said that you know the Oval Office as well as he does. I'm wondering if you could reflect on your exchanges with American presidents over the last 16 years, and particularly contrast the current president with his most immediate predecessor.
Yes. Yes.
In 2 minutes or less.
Nasty.
Obviously, I know why they elected you president. Well, let me start off by
Congratulations, sir. You just won the election.
The question relative to Haiti and Cuba. And communism is a failed system, universally failed system. And I don't see socialism as a very useful substitute, but that's another story. With regard to whether the circumstance in which we would send military troops to Haiti, we're only sending American Marines to our embassy to make sure that they are secure and nothing is out of whack at all.
Out of whack.
The idea of sending American forces into Haiti is not on the agenda at this moment, number one. Number two, with regard to Cuba, Cuba is unfortunately, a failed state in repressing their citizens. There are a number of things that we would consider doing to help the people of Cuba, but it would require a different circumstance or a guarantee that they would not be taken advantage of by the government. For example, the ability to send remittances back to Cuba. I would not do that now because the fact is it's highly likely that the regime would confiscate those remittances or big chunks of it. With regard to they need COVID they have a COVID problem in Cuba, I would be prepared to give significant amounts of vaccine if in fact I was assured an international organization would administer those vaccines and do it in a way that average citizens would have access to those vaccines. One of the things that you did not ask, but we're considering is they have cut off access to the internet. We're considering whether we have the technological...
It would be great for him to say, I will also undo what Trump did with the embargo.
And I think I've answered your questions. Thank you.
Not quite. Not fully.
Ja, ich will Allow me, if I may, to elaborate on 3 different points. Any German Chancellor has a vested interest to talk, and that's very much in the vested interest of Germany to work and talk together with any American president. We've always had contacts, and you've been able to. It was, I think, a very transparent, and today it was a very friendly exchange. Ach so, ich muss Herrn Künast auf. Oh, sorry, I have to call Mr. Künast and his German question.
Ja, vielen Dank.
Thank you very much, Madam Chancellor. Mr. President, allow me, if I may, to ask a question as regards Nord Stream 2. Madam Chancellor, you just said that you would act actively should Russia be in breach of its commitments, for example, interrupt gas transit through Ukraine. What do you mean in concrete terms? Will Germany then switch off Nord Stream 2 from the German side, and what sort of legal grounds would you be sort of claiming? Mr. President, you have fought so many years, the US has fought so many years against Nord Stream 2. Now there will be only a few days left until this pipeline comes into operation. Why will you allow it to go ahead, to put it in operation, or will the people who operate this system actually have to contend with sanctions?
It's a good question.
On the horizon?
Well, Mr. Kühner, says the Chancellor, you know that we've worked a lot, not only Germany, incidentally, but the whole of the European Commission, for talking to Russia and Ukraine, negotiating a treaty that ensures until 2023 the gas contract, and after that, gas deliveries must be possible as well. That is what I've heard. At least, let me be very careful here in my wording. And then, should that no go ahead, we have a number of instruments at our disposal, which are not necessarily on the German side, but on the European side. For example, sanctions as regards Crimea, or the breach of the Minsk Treaty, has shown that we have those sanctions, these instruments at our disposal. We have possibilities to react. We are in contact with our European friends on this, but at the point in time of which I hope we will never have to take those decisions, you will then see what we do.
My view on Nord Stream 2 has been known for some time. Good friends can disagree. And but by the time I became president, it was 90% completed. And imposing sanctions did not seem to make any sense. It made more sense to work with the Chancellor on finding out how she would proceed based on whether or not Russia tried to essentially blackmail Ukraine in some way. And so the Chancellor and I have asked our teams to look at practical measures we could take together, and whether or not Europe energy security, Ukraine security are actually strengthened or weakened based on Russian actions. And so this is we'll see. We'll see. Ms. Leonard of Bloomberg.
Okay.
Can I hold it? Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I have two questions for you and then some for Chancellor Merkel as well. Your administration tomorrow is issuing a business advisory for Hong Kong. I was wondering if you can explain why you think that is necessary. And then secondly, on your Build Back Better agenda, have you spoken to Senators Manchin and Sinema about the $3.5 trillion framework? And are you confident that they'll be on board at that level? And if they demand that you lose some components, will you be able to keep progressives on board? Und nun zu Ihnen, Frau Kanzlerin. China war natürlich auch auf der Agenda. Ich wollte Sie fragen, ob Sie...
I wanted to ask you whether you have a feeling that after the talk with President Biden, he better understands your viewpoint as regards China, or whether the situation is still tense, whether there's still decoupling. And secondly, whether you think that the United States has contributed enough to vaccinate the rest of the world, or do you think it's is it appropriate for children in the United States being vaccinated, children below the age of 12, while adults in other countries have no chance to get vaccinated?
That's all. I thought I said we'd take two questions, but I guess that translator would take two questions or more from each person called on. Let me talk about the business advisory.
Come on, man.
The situation in Hong Kong is deteriorating, and the Chinese government is not keeping its commitment that it made how it would deal with Hong Kong. And so it is more of an advisory as to what may happen on Hong Kong. It's as simple as that, and as complicated as that. With regard to, am I confident? I'm supremely confident that everything's going to work out perfectly in terms. Look, I understand why the press, among others, is skeptical that I can actually get this deal done on infrastructure and on human infrastructure. And I've watched and listened in the press, declared my initiative dead at least 10 times so far. I don't think it's dead. I think it's still alive. I still have confidence we're going to be able to get what I proposed and what I've agreed to in the bipartisan agreement on infrastructure. We've each committed, I trust the members of the Republican senators who have made the commitments relative to how we should proceed and what would be included in the package for infrastructure. And they're men and women of honor, and I expect they would keep their commitment. With regard to the further issue of what's going on and what will confuse the listening audience, but reconciliation, that is the mechanism by which you have to get every single Democrat to agree to proceed on matters like what I announced today. Today, I don't know whether you have any children. It's none of my business whether you do, but if you do, you're going to get, if you're making less than $150,000, you're going to get a significant stipend that is a tax cut. If you have a child under the age of 7 years old, you're going to get in your bank account today, you're going to get a payment of 12 months divided, $3,700 for that child divided by 12 every month.
Right.
Just like a Social Security check. It's expected to reduce child poverty by over 40%. And it could be a significant game changer. We have mechanisms to pay for both these mechanisms. And there may be some
mechanisms to pay for mechanisms is good.
What mechanism is used to pay for each of these items, both the infrastructure package and the human infrastructure package. But I believe we will get it done. Thank you.
Wir haben über China gesprochen.
We talked about China, and there is a lot of common understanding that China in many areas is our competitor. That trade with China needs to rest on the assumption that we have a level playing field so that we all, play by the same rules, have the same standards. That incidentally was also the driving force behind the EU-China agreement on trade, that they abide by the core labor norms of ILO. And we are convinced of ours needing to be technological leaders for our countries, our two countries, in many areas. Obviously, it's legitimate for China wishing to do this as well. But for example, we will cooperate in many technological, state-of-the-art technologies, for example, chips. I think the act that the president launched is fundamental in this respect and crucial. And we want to trade together at a time of digitalization where security issues loom very large on our agendas. We ought to have an exchange on this. We ought to talk about this. We ought to talk about norms, standards that govern the internet, whether we can agree on common norms. I think particularly as regards the relationship of us with China, we ought to coordinate our efforts. We do that in the European Union, and we should do it with the United States. And then there are interests, obviously, sometimes divergent interests, but sometimes common interests. But we also have obviously areas where American companies compete with European companies, and we have to accept that. But I think basically the rules as to how we deal with China ought to rest and do rest on our shared values. And I think on the pandemic, we are obviously of the opinion that the pandemic, we can only master the pandemic if each and everyone is vaccinated. We are trying to boost production. We are trying also to get as many people in our country vaccinated as possible, which obviously opens us up to criticism of those countries who as yet have not had the chance, which is why we invest a lot of money in COVAX, which is why we encourage our companies to increase their production of vaccines. And in Africa, we are trying to help Africans to upskill people so that they too can have their own production sites. We're going to do this, but de facto, there is an imbalance. I agree. But we're overcoming. We're putting our all into that and also together in overcoming that imbalance. I'm sorry, I call on Ms. Schäuble from the Tagesspiegel newspaper.
Tagesspiegel.
Thank you.
One for each of you. Mr. President, my first question touches an issue that worries a lot of people in the US and in Germany. can you explain to us why there still is a travel ban for people coming from Germany or other states of the European Union, while people from Turkey, where the number of new cases are 7 times as high,
Perfect question.
can come?
Perfect.
You have repeatedly said that you're following scientific data. What is the main argument for not lifting the travel ban for the Schengen region? And Chancellor Merkel, Sie haben mit den...
You talk to the business companies here. You heard their concerns, you heard their headaches. Some have threatened that they're going to shift business away from the United States. What was your main argument to work for a lifting of the travel ban, and have you had success with this?
We brought in the head of our COVID team because the Chancellor brought that subject up. It's in the process of seeing how soon we can lift the ban. It's in process now. And I'll be able to answer that question to you within the next several days, what is likely to happen. I'm waiting to hear from our folks and our COVID team as to when that should be done.
Kind of a cop-out, but okay.
And the Chancellor did raise it.
I did raise the issue, yes. And got the same answer that the President gave you just now. The COVID team is evaluating the matter. We had an exchange on, in both areas, the Delta variant actually being on the increase. That is, again, a new challenge to both of us. And obviously, before such a decision, one has to reflect, and it has to be a sustainable decision. It is certainly not sensible to have to take it back after only a few days. So I have every confidence in the American COVID team.
Having been here many times, if we don't leave right now, we're going to miss dinner. Chancellor and I have a dinner with a number of folks and very shortly. So thank you for your attention and thank you for your question.
Nice early dinner, huh?
Thank you.
All right, there it is. President Joe Biden and German Chancellor Angela Merkel. For people asking, will I be seeking out sausages when I go to Frankfurt in a few weeks? No, they're mostly pork, and I haven't eaten pork in a decade. But I will seek out the best chicken schnitzel. Someone recommended to me a place in Frankfurt called Main Diner. I have no idea whether that's the best chicken schnitzel, but I will take recommendations. Thank you very much, everybody. We will see you all very, very soon. That's absolutely clear.
I have with me David Pakman. He is a progressive host and executive producer of the nationally syndicated radio and TV program, The David Pakman Show. And I wanted to talk to David Pakman. He is a beta male. David Pakman. He is a beta male. The beta male. David Pakman. He is a beta male.